Hello everybody, welcome to tonight's stream. We got some fun going on tonight. Hopefully get some more painting done. You guys haven't seen it, but the Zheng He from Star Trek Picard. I've been starting to put the paint touches on that one. We've got an Excelsior class Enterprise B to assemble. We're going to talk about some handy dandy 3D printed painting tools. And we may do some work on a Halo diorama or even the Spirit of Fire tonight. So, and depending on time, who knows, we may get over and slice something. So, and get some new prints started, because I think I've got one printer open right now that needs a job. So we will take a look at that maybe here in a little while. So get the camera pointed right here, because I'm noticing the light is saturating in. We don't want that. Get everything a little bit better situated. There we go. So how's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully everybody's having a good night. I know here in Missouri we've got another winter storm coming in next week. So, or tomorrow it's supposed to be starting. So fun stuff going on. Kind of one of those things where we're just kind of doing a week after week after week of snowstorms here lately. So, but nothing wrong with that, because I'm getting a lot of work done when I'm not outside shoveling snow. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start off putting this Excelsior class Enterprise B together. But I've got some more supports I got to get out of here first. Supports are always fun to get out. They are the necessary evil of 3D printing, even in resin, which if you guys are wanting to see definitely more stuff about resin put on here, I think I finally found the sweet spot on my larger printers. This Friday we're going to have a video about the Illigu Saturn S, about getting it put together and putting it in your shop, if you so decide to do so. That is I'm not gonna lie, I am impressed with that printer. So it's actually doing its second print job right now to make a next variation, her sister ship of the Enterprise B, all in resin. So kind of hoping that comes out in a really good set, but only time will tell. And I think I have killed this tube finally. Hooray! We'll get that one in the trash later. And we'll go over here and get another one. As long as I don't rip Mortarian apart here. And I don't think I'm hurting on super glue, do you guys? Oh. The habit of Dollar Tree. Every time I go, I pick up a new tube. I pick up a couple. Even though now it's $1.25 in my region. I don't know about you guys if they've gone up where you are, but Dollar Tree is no longer just $1 for us. Alright. Now the goal tonight is not to get super glue all over my hands. But we'll get this 3D model, start getting her assembled. That way we can start doing some filler and start moving this guy towards paint. Oh man, that sucks, man. I hate it when the kids get sick. That's always the hardest thing to deal with, is when they're sick and trying to get hobby work done, and honestly just get work done, because you're having to take care of them. I definitely know that feeling. Gotta get all the wonderful hobby clamps out. I didn't do very much model painting at all today. I had two printers that have been down two of my CR10s were messed up, so I had to invest quite a bit of time today in getting them back into working order. Because, yeah, it's no fun when a printer is down. Alright, so we got pressure on there. I've run out of super glue accelerator, so unfortunately I'm just having to do the glue game today. But this stuff, I bought it at Menards. It's the Sonatax, and it dries pretty quick. It's actually a really good one. After I get some of this glued together, I want to start working on a project that actually, today, you and I have been talking about. And now that my Odin has freed up, we're going to get a few pieces started on it today. So we're going to get started on another Halo project today. And we're going to take a look at some models for some resin prints, hopefully, that I'm thinking about. Get your guys' input before I pull triggers on them, because that section is going to have to sit and dry. That's garbage. I'll have to wait till that dries to put that on, and I'll have to wait till the saucer dries to put the impulse engines on. But all in all, 4 out of 6 pieces are already together. So, hey Dirks, long time. Life's treating pretty good. Busy as always. Always busy. If you're not busy, you're relaxing, and relaxing is good. I'm waiting till next month I get to get a little relaxation time in. I'm looking forward to a little bit of relaxation. But we're just working on an Enterprise B. We're probably going to do some more painting into the Zheng He here. Start getting some more detail onto it. We're going to do some slicing here in a little bit. I figured out a way to actually connect to my big computer downstairs with the 3090 graphic card in it, and use it via a remote session on this to actually do the rendering. So we shouldn't have the horrible connectionness that we had with Kira last week. But essentially when that model is done, it's going to look just like this one, which I need to start going in and filling in the seam lines. And actually there's some thinness in the saucer I'm not happy about. But that's caused by low infill and just the way this was designed. So there's some smoothing and stuff I got to do in there. This is the model. I know the light kind of makes things bad for this. This is the model at 100% as the model maker made it, and it is extremely well detailed. It is really well detailed. I'm really happy with it. It's a multi-part print, and we've got one sitting here, but I looked at the scale and I noticed there's a refit. And yeah, it's scaled pretty much appropriately. So, hi Paul, how's it going? Life's going pretty good. I did finally start finding the sweet spot for my Photon Mono X, which is what printed this one in one nice, beautiful piece. So I've got that guy dialed in, and it has been humming ever since I found the right settings. So definitely one of those things we're doing. We're going to start seeing more large-scale resin prints coming. Just the only key problem with the resin prints is it's got to warm up so I can actually get these in a good primer. A lot of people have run into problems with resins and resin prints and primers, because I usually like to use the Army Painter primer, but a lot of times on these resin prints it'll either take really well or it's going to chip and fall off, and then you got to clean it off, and that's just no fun. So I'm actually going to try airbrushing the Vallejo surface primer. A lot of people have said that this one tends to stick a lot better to resin, so I'm curious to try it, especially since I got a new toy I just pressed down and it actually shakes up my paints. It's a paint shaker, an electronic paint shaker, which is pretty cool. I've been having a lot of fun with that since I hooked it up. And actually, I may just make a little thing here and use the airbrush right there to sit here and do some small priming. So just out of curiosity, guys, when you go through and paint your models, starting with primer, especially when they're small, what tools do you use? Because I see a lot of people will get like the Citadel hand tool and stuff like this, and I think this guy's like $17. Luckily, this was a gift given to me by Zai that has come in very handy. But one of the cool things about 3D printing, I made the same tool for less than $1. I was printing the Stargazer, but it crapped out after one of the engine supports fell over. Oh, jerk. The Stargazer was a pain. A lot of the models that I found for that one were missing parts, and I actually had to go into... I took it into Mesh Mixer and cut pieces off so that I could get the missing pieces off other models to make one work. Actually, it's downstairs. If you remind me, I'll take some pictures of mine, or we'll make sure I have it primed next stream. It's actually needing to be painted, but I know with miniatures, these little handles are great. And like I said, this guy, I printed it for $1. This thing is like 20. Now, granted, all that's in here creating the tension is a rubber band, but it works fine. Where, you know, the bigger Citadel, that's metal spring loaded tool. But then you go up to the bigger ones where you can do a bunch of minis or large prints. This guy runs about $24, $25. I've seen this all the way up on Amazon at $40. And it's just a stick with rubber bands, essentially. So I was Googling around, and for $250, here's my equivalents. And there's actually a video out there with these in the description. I'll go to try to find the links to the models for these. But essentially it lets you have the spray can, stick it out there, and you're not stuck holding the minis and can move it around, because this is meant to get paint all over it. So it's definitely a handy tool, but we'll definitely get the models in the description. It does usually, I'll be honest guys, I usually do the stream and then I go to bed. So that's why stuff doesn't get into the stream till usually the next day. But I mean, the Citadel one, I love that it pivots. I can move it around. I can have 4 or 5 on here of the miniatures. It's a very handy tool, but just for the price, when I can make something very similar, I think the rubber band, the bag of rubber bands, was more expensive than the PLA used here to make this. So it's kind of one of those things when you get into 3D printing and you get further into the hobby where you're starting to do the painting and stuff like that and looking at the tools, a lot of stuff is really expensive. I mean, like this is expensive. And if I drop it once in the garage in the cold, guess what's going to happen? It's going to break because it's plastic. After a few drops of stuff like that, these pins are going to come off and it's going to become worthless to me, where for very cheap and very disposable, I can make my own. So it's kind of a cool thing, especially if you're working with like 2-a-days. I know you do Gundams. You know, this little handle with a piece of cork on it, or put a piece of cork into the vise and then have the Gundam part pushed into the cork, will make it very easy to paint. So this is definitely a very useful tool that does not cost much to print. It is a 5-piece set, because you've got the little clips right here that pin in with the rubber band, and these 2 pieces and the handle. The handle is one nice solid piece, and it's actually a really neat print and comes in very handy. I do not have a single miniature on my no, I don't even have well, no, I do have a miniature in here. Yeah, I do. So let's take some Necron nanites there, and boom, it just got a lot easier to hold and paint them. They're firm in there, they're not going to move around too much, and I can sit here and easily have my hand on it and brush. So definitely a tool worth printing. These little handles, and you can scale them up. especially for like bigger models. You can, I've got one of these, I printed it at 200% to handle, well, for example, I printed it that large to handle Mercy. It's actually downstairs at my other table, but this is a really smart tool to have in your arsenal. Yeah, well, so the alligator clips, I bought the alligator clip set because airbrushing, you know, these come in handy because you can pick it up and move it around, but it is taking up a part of the model, and it can leave indentions in the model with those teeth. And one of the things that I didn't like is I got so many of these, more than I would ever put in one base. So what did I do? This model's out on Thingiverse. It's the same base, and I just printed it. This was like I think this was a 10-hour print is what this took. And versus buying one plate with, I think it was like 20 of these, was like $17. And now I have a complete second base that I basically got a 2-for-1 with just a couple dollars worth of PLA and some print time on an Ender 3. So it's definitely one of those things worth looking at your tools. Now, a lot of you guys are like, well, why do you need two? I mean, you have one, you know, you're going to be painting and then keeping stuff in there. I'm kind of a weird hobbyist. I have a paint desk downstairs and I have a paint desk up in my living room. So I actually work in two different places in my house, and I'll take models between there to work. Because one, I bring them upstairs here because we're at my upstairs paint desk here. Because my wife will sit in the living room and work on stuff, and I can be sitting here painting and talking with her while I'm working and stuff like that. So for having that extended area is kind of a nice thing for us. That works really well. Airbrushing, other than highlighting and touch-ups that I do with the brush up here, all that's done downstairs at the lower desk, because I actually have it connected to an exhaust fan that will pipe everything out, keep my air clean, you know, all that fun stuff. Especially if I do enamels, I definitely want to keep my air clean and keep myself healthy. But these are definitely, if you got a 3D printer, these are definitely worth printing, because honestly I could print 17 for the cost of one of these. So, and this is completely scalable. As you scale it up, you may want a thicker rubber band, so kind of keep that in mind. But it's kind of one of those things. The tools are really cool when you think about it, of what you can do with just the 3D printer and saving money in your hobby. Because that's one of the things I love about 3D printing is you can tie this to almost any hobby. If you're a fisherman, okay, great. Where are you getting your fishing lures? You could print them. Easy enough. And put your lead weights in, make a hollow spot, put your lead weights in there, and go to town. So it's definitely one of those things. Well, should you support model makers like Games Workshop and, you know, Polar Lights and all those guys? Yes. I even still buy model kits because there's some things that are just really too cool. Star Blazers, Space Battleship Yamamoto. I've got the big set sitting out here in front of my desk. I pay for my Warhammer, but that's because I intend to play. And you can't play with 3D printed proxies in official. So kind of one of those things. It's one of those things you got to kind of keep in mind. The 3D printing is a tool that you can use to augment anything you're doing. Photography, use it to print props. One of my favorite things with that one is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the guy that he does the action scenes with the Lego Star Wars figures. You know, those little barricades and stuff are easily 3D printed to enhance those shots. Micro tripods. My GoPro that I tote around with me sometimes is on a 3D printed little tripod. So the hobby can kind of pull into whatever you're working on. It's a great thing to have, because it does increase your hobby. So Yeah, 2 days I'll admit. And you guys can make fun of me for this. I am very spoiled. My wife spoils the tar out of me with this. But this is more than a hobby to me. This is also a small business where I do, I'll do prints for people and I'll paint. I'll do some paint commissions. I don't do a lot. 'Cause I really need to finish this, but I mean, this is even a paint commission that you can tell I've spent a great deal of time trying to get this one right. I need to finish the face and the beard, and this guy's actually almost done. The eyeballs are still creeping me out, but I need to put in some considerable amount of time on his mini-me. So I have not really worked hard enough on the mini-me's yet, but we will get them done. Actually, that's my goal for this weekend, is to try to finish them and kind of make those work. But kind of one of those things, we've got a lot going on in the shop, getting models finished and stuff. One of the projects I haven't primered yet is, if you guys know the movie Disney's Mulan, this is the comb. It's a really nice replica of the comb that they use with her. And I'm wanting to get that painted for my wife here soon. But it's just been too cold, and Mother Nature can't make up its mind, and I missed the one window this week that I had to prime. And I missed it. So kind of one of those things, kind of a bummer. One of the things too, whether you're building models, you're 3D printing or something, if you're in the hobby, good pairs of snips are really, really good. So, hi Douglas, how's it going? Glad to see you here. Glad you were able to join tonight. These MC180s, I have been impressed since I bought these. A vendor actually sent me the pair to try out, and these things have been great for support removal, especially when it's really thick support. They're spring loaded, they chomp right through it. You can see where I've actually gotten it stuck, and I was using another pair of snips to get it out, and I kind of clipped it. But these run about $8 on Amazon. These are a really great tool, guys. I definitely recommend this in your arsenal, whether you're building model kits or you're doing 3D printing. This is definitely a tool worth having, because it just gives you more bite and leverage over the standard little snips. Because this is a pair that comes with the printer. But they are extremely useful. There is a dowel snipper that's just like this that I recommend. I like the hand grips on it better, but it's a good one to keep in your arsenal. So, and to my painters out there, how many of you guys have wet pallets? Because a wet palette can be your best friend. Especially when you're painting. I love this one from Miniature Market because it keeps my paint wet for about a good week when I put it in here. And after a project or two, I just pull the parchment paper, add a little bit more water, put a new one in, and I'm ready to rock and roll. This is a large scale one. It's found at Miniature Market. It works really well. And I also have the smaller Army Painter one, which I haven't used in a while. I need to switch out my parchment paper and re-wet it again. Matter of fact, while it's out, I'll pull that. These are really handy tools to have around when you paint, especially if you're not painting all the time. This thing can be handy. The Army Painter one, I think, runs about $30. It is quite a bit smaller, but this one runs about $60. But it comes with 50 pieces of parchment and 2 of the wet mats that go underneath. So definitely handy tools to have around if you're going to get into the hobby. So enough talking about tools, because we're here to have some fun, right? So let's switch over to the computer screen. I'll put links in the description of both those, so you guys can get a check out on them, because the wet palettes are really awesome. So this is a model I've been thinking about with the recent release of Doctor Strange's. Mike, thanks for joining. Yeah, that's why I do what I do. Is 4 years ago I was right where you were, so I try to make that make it as easy as I can. So one of the models I've been thinking about in resin is Doctor Strange. I'm trying to figure out a good way to record my resin printing. I have just not found a good time-lapsing way, short of setting a camera and letting it take a picture every like 20 seconds or so. So this is one that I've been thinking about, and actually let's check out what we got going on. So I'm printing another Voyager. I'm printing a full one-piece Enterprise B. What am I printing on here? Can anybody guess what that one is? Because if you can kind of guess from what's there, I will be pleasantly surprised and happy that people will know what I'm trying to print. So I know the picture is kind of small, but I'll leave it to the chat to guess. This one's working on a Galaxy class Dreadnought because I did the Ambassador class. Now I'm going for the Galaxy. The Ender 2 camera is... The Ender 2 is just being finicky. The Ender 3 is working on a piece of a Halo ring. This one is working on another Halo vessel. I'm working on the Paris class battleship. And this one, come on stream, you were working a few minutes ago, is working on something that I haven't done before. I'm actually picking on World of Warcraft. I'm doing a Warglaive from there. Douglas, you're right in the ballpark. You are right in the ballpark. It is split in two pieces. And I will say it is an Alliance ship. So, but I'm working on a Warglaive here. I'm using the CR30 belt printer to keep going. Disney Day, I actually have it. The problem is it requires a Canon camera. And it only works on certain printers. The only printer I would be able to use it on is the Photon Mono X. And unfortunately, giving it my Canon camera is my primary recording camera. So I don't want to be, as much as I like that. I've been looking at Nano DB because it's very similar to Octoprint, but it's supposed to work with most resin printers. So I've been looking at that option as well. But I do have that Resin Lapse downstairs. I did purchase one. It's a very good price of $20. But if it only had Nikon camera support, I would totally use it. But giving up my Canon camera is a bit difficult considering I'm recording footage every day with that camera. So losing it for a few days is a bit hard. And then this one is actually printing a... Anybody remember in the Phantom Menace, the Republican cruiser that the negotiators showed up in on the Federation ship that unfortunately got itself blown away in the docking bay when the Trade Federation said, "Oh no, it's Jedi," and kind of took care of everything? That's what I'm printing here. Is I'm printing that Republican cruiser, but the modded version that we saw in Clone Wars. So that's coming up as well. So the only printer that I have doing absolutely nothing right now is the Odin 5. And we're going to ignore that. We can't see the build plate right now because, yeah. And it's telling me a bunch of messages. So we're going to do something cool here. And I did this in big pieces. And unfortunately, it is going to be massive if I keep going. Mike, you're in the wrong genre. But I've been working on trying to print a Halo ring.
And again, if you guys are on Thingiverse and you hit the download all and it doesn't work, you can remove files or comments and put in /zip, and it works. You can't see it because it's behind my picture, but you can download the entire zip file in one bit. But I happen to have one of these segments sitting here, and I'll show this on the bigger picture here, but the inside is completely smooth, so that leaves a lot of room for some cool stuff. And then the actual design is done really well. It's actually got holes, so you could put like a blue LED light inside to replicate this blue look that the halo ring has. But what's bad about it is, notice the curvature is not very much. So it actually takes like 6 of these, and these are 1 foot sections roughly, to make a quarter of it. By the time I'm done, this thing's gonna be like 8 foot tall. And that just isn't gonna work. So we are gonna slice a smaller version. Don't worry, Mike. I'm gonna actually show it here in a minute in the standard view as soon as I go back to it, because I got some work to do on those. So I'm gonna extract this to get into the file. And the model maker did a really good job on this one, guys, if you decide to make your own halo. And I'm going to go for the Halo 1 segment, because I'm not going to do one. So there's actually, Dirk, there is a ton of really cool Stargate models out there. Now, the working one, you're going to need an Arduino and a couple other things, but there's actually a step-by-step guide out there to make that. So there's the part. I'm actually going to switch to my Odin profile here in Cura, and I'm not going to print it this way because this is just not a smart way to print it. So we're going to rotate it standing up, because if you print that way, it's going to infill it, and we don't want it to get infilled. We want that section hollow. I'm going to try to rotate this. Lay flat. Hey, there we go. There we go. So we got it laying nice, good, and flat. But the Stargate... Okay, I'm going to ask the question. And I don't want an answer right now. I want you guys to go put it in the comments of this tomorrow. Do you want me to do a Stargate video? Just go out there and just put Stargate in the comments. And we will either do a Stargate, or maybe I'll pick like one of the Prometheus or one of the ships from Stargate and do that. So I want to go to view, I want to go to camera position, I want to see this from the front. Awesome, that looks pretty. So, but it's too big. So I want to scale this. And I want to do this at 50% size. I really toned it down, didn't it? So I'm actually kind of cool with that, and I am going to go to multiply this by 5. So I'm breaking my own rule here. I'm going to do 6 sections in one print. Now I know my camera's looking at it this way. So I'm going to move, whoops, I'm making a mistake. Okay, so I want to get this into move, not that. Lock models. All right, so usually my rule is do one at a time, because if one fails, they're all going to fail. Is usually my rule with that. No, Douglas, it's not the Omega. It's actually, when I mean alliance, I meant the Interstellar Alliance, not the Earth Alliance. Sorry, I should have been more clear on that one. Sorry, you guys probably heard my pup in the background there. Come on. Oh, I locked it. That's why it won't move. So let's get you moved. Oh no, you're not going to let me move you there. Yep, that's what I figured was about to happen. That's okay. We'll get these lined up for nice, easy printing. Back to 0. Oh, you're going to try and do it again. You jerk. Let's grab it over here. All right. So we've got them lined up the way we want them. And I'm just for safety, I'm going to come into custom supporting. So actually, Douglas, that one is the white star in 2 pieces. The model is not looking too great, but I'm hoping I can save it. So, and I'm just going to come in with some custom supports just on these higher spots, and also just to give it some more contact with the build plate, I'm going to put these custom supports in place to help build it up. So yeah, I'm working on a white star because that's awesome. Douglas, if you go out and check my videos, I've actually already done the Omega. That's been almost a year since I've done the Omega. But yeah, that is a good old white star is what I'm trying to replicate there. So if my math is right, this should be, once I make all the parts for this halo, it's going to be about 4 foot tall, which I'm kind of okay with because I'm thinking about mount it around the ceiling of my office downstairs of the main stage. So that way the top half of it will get into the view of the cameras along with the other models. So I'm going to slice this guy up. And let's take a look and see what all it's going to tell me it's going to use. Because actually thinking about this, I've already got a setting I want to change. We're going to cancel that because my support, oh my goodness, if it did that support, they'd be blocks. Let's start with 80% support. And while this says brim, I'm actually going to switch this to a raft because I want build plate adhesion. Because I've got a lot of curve going up on its own that won't be supported, so I want that raft to hold it onto the build plate. Yeah, the Omega's been done, and I've looked at the Omega. I'm going to be honest here. I found another model of the Omega that is just way more detailed than what I did. And I have seriously considered printing it again. But the fact that it is going to be over 3 foot long discourages me because I've got a lot of other big projects going. But I have wanted to revisit the Omega to make the actual rotating section. But it's just not been a huge priority for me right now. And while that's... Oh, man, we're barely using any filament. So we're going to save that to disk, and we're going to save that to my place I send all my G-code files. And let's go send that over to Octoprint. Let's kick this guy off. Which one were you? We want the... nope, we don't want the Mac stuff. The Odin 5. We're going to pull our folder back open, transfer to Octoprint. We're going to drag that into place. And that's loading the file into Octoprint for us. And I know that printer is empty because I took everything off. I can hit the print button on the model and get her started. Now I have Octolapse running on here, so it's going to, or at least I thought I did. Nope, I don't. So that's okay. I'm not too worried about it because I'll have to do multiple prints, so I'll grab the Octolapse on the next print. That, if this makes sure it works. And what's cool, if you guys don't use Octoprint, you have FDM printers, this is your friend, because I'm sitting upstairs on my upstairs floor, and I can watch it, I can look at my temperatures, I can cancel, I can pause, I can do all kinds of cool stuff right here. I can get the time-lapse capture, Octolapse capture, which you can see there, it was doing one. I don't know why I have an unfinished render. That's old and I don't care about it, so we're going to trash that, get some space back. So there's a lot that you can get here, and I can even port this out to where I can access it on my phone and look at this remotely while I'm out of the house. I have a VPN on my phone that I come back in and I look at all this stuff when I'm out. So, but what's cool is if I can come in here, I can look, I can see a print's failing, and I can cancel it. I don't have to be here to do it. So it's a great way to monitor your printer and keep stuff safe. And definitely watch what you're doing. You guys can see I've got mine all named out. They're all color coded to work in a really good way. Babylon 5 was in the 80s? Octoprint is a great tool. The only thing that really costs you is the Raspberry Pi. Now, I recommend the CanaKit. That runs about $100, but it's got everything you need. And you just need to make sure you have the right USB cable to plug in, and then a standard webcam. I use the Logitech webcams for mine. They run about $60 for the cameras I use, but they work really well. I'm actually slowly phasing out other cameras that I have, but this little guy right here works really well. They're normally about $69. Plugs right in. The Raspberry Pi, an Octoprint knows it, and just boom, you're done. You're ready to start recording. It's a cheap, efficient way to get a camera on your printer. So, yeah, as long as you have a Pi, just Google Octoprint. The download's free. It's all free. And there's APIs that you can get from like Spaghetti Doctor, which has a pay for. It has an AI service that will watch your print and cancel it if something's wrong. Granted, you got to pay for that kind of stuff, but there are kind of cool things. There's a lot of neat plugins. Like Octolapse is a plugin that I use. That is on the printer that I've installed. So I am getting ready to put the 18 version 1.8. You can see it's telling me I need to require Python 3 on mine. So I'm actually going to be probably doing a new video with the 1.8 version, because it's easier just to rebuild my Octoprints to the 1.8 with Python 3 than do the migration. So I'm going to kind of go down that road and just do one at a time. I've got a spare 32 gig SD card. I'll take it, set it up, swap them out, wipe that one, do it, and just go through all of them, because I've got about, I think I'm up to 9 of these now I'm gonna have to do. So yeah, Battlestar Galactica, Battlestar Galactica 1980. Ugh, that was the reboot. Ugh, we tried to forget that one. But Babylon 5, I don't know if you guys caught the stream last week. I'm gonna just actually try to turn the camera. I don't know if the light's gonna be fair. There it is. I just need to paint it. So I just have not had a chance to paint it. Hey Jojo, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the video tonight. To the stream. So we've got all kinds of stuff popping around on the printers tonight. So I'm kind of curious to see how this Paris class frigate come out. It's going to be kind of small, but it's the first time around. So a lot of times and like you saw with the Enterprise B on my desk a little bit ago, I'll do it at its normal size to kind of get a feel for it. And then then we blow things up and make it bigger, because, you know, that's just fun. So as far as the printers go, we've got everybody kind of doing a little bit of, well, the Ender 2 is not doing anything, but it's being a butthead. So we finally got the Mega Pegasus off the printer. That's downstairs, ready for some fun. So, but yeah, the White Star, you can see the big fins in the back there, the second piece and all that. So hopefully that model comes out, and we'll save it. If it does, I'll save it for next week's stream. We'll do some assembling. I haven't seen that scene in a long time, Mike. That's a Oh yeah, that flying motorcycle is atrocious, if anything. So, but we've got a lot of cool models started, and of course we've got the new Halo. Well, hopefully, honestly, looking at the print time, actually I'm gonna pull that up. I'm gonna pull that back up. Print time is a day and a half. So hopefully I'll have a good section of that. Maybe next week we can start assembling a Halo. The only thing that I'll want to make sure is I get the LED lights in, so that we can mount those as we start doing assembly. Because we'll want a nice strip of blue LED going through there so we get that effect through the holes that are in the model. But I am really kind of curious to see this come out. And I'll go back here. This is Shinto Box. This is where I do all a lot of my rendering for resin. This is what I've got on my set. You guys will see the video about it coming out Friday. This Friday, I'm going to talk about Illigu Saturn S. I got one sent to me, and it is I'm in love. Compared to the Photon Mono X, it has higher resolution, so it can get a sharper print. R2 is going. I'm taking a little bit of break. I was working on the frame of the body, and I got through about 25 pieces of it, and I'm kind of doing a couple other prints real quick, and then I'm going to turn the CR30 is going to move to its new home on the wall, and that way it'll actually be printing this way instead of flat and stuff just falling off the end, and it'll have a box mounted underneath so more of the R2D2 parts can go into it. But right now I wanted to get that Warglaive knocked out before I move it, because it's only a couple pieces on the Warglaive. But Shinto Box is a different slicer. If you're doing resin printing, Shinto Box is a great tool. You guys can see here the the Saturn S is a rather big build plate. And I don't know if you guys are doing resin printing, but here's my settings that are working really well for the Illigu Saturn. But if you've got a Photon Mono X, man, that thing is picky on its settings. And there's what's working for me right now. So, and you guys can see there's a lot in here. Basically, I actually need to trash this one. And I need to trash that one. So these are the type of printers that I have right now. I've got the Proxima 6, the LD002R from Creality, which is great. The Photon Mono X, which is a large scale printer. But look at the resolutions. I'm not on the Photon. 3840 by 2400. But then you look at the Saturn S. Wow, I am getting into great resolution. And the Saturn S is considered a 4K printer. Now you got the Photon Mono X 6K coming out, which I don't know if I'm going to get my hands on one of those, but I really don't need any more printers. But I will take them, do reviews, and all that kind of stuff. But the settings are where it is. And the settings, depending on what resin you're using, you'll need to make a profile for each resin. So kind of keep that in mind. You can make new profiles and have different profiles for different resins. Which I am using, right now I'm using the Illigu standard resin, which is not what this is. And then for the Photon Mono X, for this guy, I'm using the Anycubic Basic. And getting really good results from the Anycubic Photon Mono. Yeah, I saw that, and it's kind of one of those things. I don't know if I'm okay with it, because before you fill your basin, you want to shake the resin. So unless it's got a shaker on it, but even then, that's going to slop resin around out of the bay, which scares me a little bit. And one of the things, if any of you guys get into resin printers, get a screen protector. Just don't even print till you buy it. Because those screen protectors are going to save your butt. Because if the FET bay ever breaks and that resin leaks onto your screen, because there's a polarized and then there's the LCD. If it gets on that polarized and you rip it trying to get that resin off, you're done. you've got to replace that whole part. And like the Creality printer is actually quite cheap. I think a new screen cost me $25. The Photon Mono X screen is $160 to replace it. So it's kind of one of those things that you got to look at where you're spending your money. But the screen protectors, while they're like 10 or 15 bucks, I don't even remember how much it was. Let's see here. Let's go take a look. Photon Mono X screen protector. So to replace your screen with multiple, it's $23. That's 23 FEPs that can break and leak on your screen and not lose a screen. That's a great investment right there. So, and whatever printer you get a screen protector and put it on your screen to protect it from the resin if the FEP paper ever breaks. And let me tell you, the FEP paper, it's easy to nick it. It is very easy to damage it. So kind of keep that in mind. So in all honesty, I was up and printing with the Saturn in about 15 minutes. So settings are the game. So it's kind of one of those things. If you do decide to go with the Saturn, it was very easy. The Saturn S runs about $519. But keep in mind, when you go with resin, you're going to want a wash and cure station as well, which can be another $100 to $200 on top of that cost. So resin printing quality is you get very sharp quality on small detail. Now, granted, like this took up the full Photon Mono X build plate. And actually, I'm going to switch back over to the other view for this. So give me 1 second to switch back over to the other camera. So this is about as big as I could take this model on the Photon Mono X in one piece, which is fairly good size because a lot of miniatures and stuff like that, you're going to be printing, you know, itty bitty, which most of your standard, like the Voxlite Proxima and the LD002R, this is easy game for them. But for the Proxima and that, this is about as big as I could do on the smaller printer. Where this guy, I could probably blow it up another 200 or 300% on the Photon Mono X. So the build plate would accommodate for that. And actually, I could have made this bigger, but I printed it straight up and down like this. So that took a lot of my space away to go. If I printed at an angle on a build plate, I could have probably gotten another 20, 30%. But for my purposes, this is perfect size. Because if any of you guys have seen the Star Trek multi-ship model kits that have like 6 or 7 of the Enterprises, this is the same size as that model. And the Saturn S, I've been impressed with it since I took it out of the box. Not only did Ilugu do a really good job packaging it, because my box got beaten to tar before it got here. The printer was pristine. It was very well packed. All the parts are there. The toolkit, they give you plenty of starter pieces that you need. The wash and cure station that I got for that one, because I now have 2 separate resin spots, I got the Ilugu Mercury X bundle, which is a wash and cure station that are separate. I got those to go with this one. While it doesn't support as big models, those wash and cure stations, I already had the Anycubic Wash and Cure Plus, which handles big models. So I wanted a smaller one to accommodate the smaller printers, which is really nice. But again, the thing with resin is you lose size. You're going to have to do it in a lot of pieces. Where, for example, the Zheng He, I could have done this a lot bigger. So yeah, I don't know Canadians versus U.S. currency right now, so it's definitely kind of one of those things. You got to keep that in mind. Resin has a lot more cost. So a bottle of the Ilugu resin that I use is about $32 versus for the same weight, the 1 kg spool of filament from Inland that I do all this stuff with is $18. So basically I can do twice as much in this than I can with a resin printer, and the extra equipment costs. Now, resin printers, if you might, like Mike, you want to start out, the Saturn is a large platform, it's a large build plate, but if you're going for like just minis like this, the Proxima or the LD002R, they run about $150, 150 to 200. So it's a lot cost saving. It is a smaller machine, but you can still do. I mean, this was printed on the smaller printer, and I mean it's a fairly good size. And I did this in one print on that machine. It's all about placement on how so you can get things bigger. But for starting out, you may want to start with the smaller resin machine because the one complaint, and I even complain about it, resin is messy. You're dealing with liquid, and it gets everywhere. It's sticky, and then you've got denatured alcohol or IPA alcohol, which is I'm trying out IPA versus denatured right now to see which one I actually like for cleaning off the resin that's on the model when you take it out to actually get to the clean final project. I'm kind of doing a test. I plan on doing a video talking about between the two because some people like denatured, which is what I was taught to use, and a lot of people are moving closer to IPA, isopropyl alcohol, specifically around the 91% mark. Because one, you don't have to leave it in there as much, but you want to be at that higher mark because water will harden the resin. It will harden this. So don't ever dump resin down your pipes. Yes, I know somebody that's done it, and it wasn't me. But it's kind of one of those things. Kind of keep that in mind as you go through of what you're wanting to do, what you're specifically wanting to do. Now, if you're wanting to print Warhammer stuff, D&D, stuff like that, a resin printer is probably the way to go. But like me, I like doing big model prints of starships. Now, granted, I like doing the smaller stuff, but this Warhammer stuff was bought model kits. That's actually something I've been debating, is taking the model kits and creating a second channel that's all just model kits and me working on it over there. But that's neither here nor there right now. I haven't made that decision because that's a lot of time on my part. So, well, I need to get back to the super glue. Should be nicely set here now, so I should be able to start working on this guy again before we dig into some painting. So we got a lot done. We got into slicing. We've talked about a ton of resin stuff. Wow, guys, you got me hopping tonight. I'm liking this. Let's keep it coming. So I'm going to ask the question, what's your guys' favorite paints that you use for models? Whether it's a 3D model, it's a model kit. Do you just use acrylics? Do you guys use enamels? Kind of curious to hear what you guys use. Most of mine is acrylics. I do have a slew of enamel down there, but it's kind of old. But most of my stuff now these days is acrylic. I'm trying to push myself more and more into airbrushing. Just kind of just used to buying the air cans, and I need to stop doing that. Alright, so we got impulse engines going on there. We'll let them glue into place. One of the things too, like this one, I will probably come in with a 3D printing pin and make this a bit stronger. So we'll see if we have time for that tonight, because it is already, we got about 25 minutes left in the stream. So do we have any other 3D printing questions out there or anything that you guys would like to have answered? So we've kind of done a tool time corner and all that kind of stuff. So, and all that. And also, guys, keep an eye out for posts from the channel as I kind of talk about some upcoming input on print decisions. So, because I've got a huge load that I want to get to, and I'm trying to prioritize. So like the Zheng He, you guys will probably see this video in next week with the coming of the new Star Trek Picard Season 2. And this one was in Season 1. So I've got a lot of painting still to go, but it is coming along nicely. The brown is a bit brighter than what I want, but I'm kind of hoping I take a wash over it, it'll tone it down and make it into a a much darker brown. So all right, those two pieces are gluing together. But hopefully you guys found the tool part interesting. I thought that was kind of a good conversation piece to have. So, Douglas, you started with testers, which is now, that's where I started, was testers as well, with the enamel paints. I started with that a long time. Oh man, that was back in the 90s. I started with testers paint. And actually back then it was aircraft models for me. I used to like putting together like the B-17, the P-51 Mustang. I was really big into World War II aircraft. Then I kind of went to model ships, specifically like the World War II aircraft carriers, the Yorktown, those ships. Now, as I've started, especially as I started to do the Warhammer stuff, I moved into the Citadel paints, which I like the Citadel paints. They're good. I hate their bottles. I hate the paint pots. These, I had some Citadel where the bottles were the droppers. I love this bottle. I hate these. And if you guys have these, one of the cool 3D prints you can make is a lid holder. So basically, pop it in there, open it, and the pin here will hold the lid open so you can keep painting. So, kind of one of those things. It's a handy tool to make, and this is not even a day's print to make this. So, but it is definitely handy. One of the paints that and you guys can see, I use Army Painter. I like Army Painter, especially like their metallics. They do a really good job on the metallics. Game Ink from Vallejo is really good for doing like highlighting. I'll spray this on a model before I go in with colors to kind of give a bright and a dark contrast underneath it. But another one that I've been using a lot lately, and I don't know if I've talked about it, hopefully I have, is Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl. If you go Google monumenthobby.com, these paint sets are really, really awesome. I love the dark silver. And so on the front of this blade, that is all dark silver. And it came out gorgeous on this blade. I'm going to feel bad when I wash and muck this one up to be the Death Guard Army tank that it's going to be. And then here we've got the Army Painter Evil Gold. And it just comes out really good, pristine colors. But the Pro Acryl has been one that I have really enjoyed using, especially for the brights. They're transparents. So if you're doing Star Trek model kits and stuff like that, you've got the red of the Bussard collectors and the blue of the warp drive nacelles. They actually do really good transparent colors. So if you plan on lighting it up, you can go in here and paint and use this paint on there. What you do a clear lacquer gloss on the inside and then come in and paint with this transparent over it, so that lacquer will let the transparent actually hold to the plastic, and then you can actually get that lighted color without having to really, find paraffin paper or anything like that to get on there. But I've really been enjoying this Monument Hobby paint. The other one that is in my, I use a lot of Vallejo. Vallejo is good. Vallejo makes a lot of the paints. I really like Vallejo's airbrush sets. They're a really good one. So, and the white gray was specifically bought because somebody needs to be a whitish gray. So I'm going to give this a try as a actual Federation Starship color, versus going with a white and then a cold white to give the Aztec pattern. That's what I usually use, is just straight white for the Constitution class starships and stuff like that. And then I would come back with a cold white for the Aztec patterning. But I'm going to try coming in with this white gray and see if it gives me a bit more of a pretty look. Yeah, the paint line is Pro Acryl. Monument Hobby is the manufacturer. So monumenthobby.com is where you want to go to get a good look at this stuff. Then the other paint line that I like, especially for some of their colors like rust. Oh man, rust can be a hard thing to get to paint on something. But I use the AK acrylic paint line as well. These work really well. They're great for thinning out and doing layering with. And even their golds and stuff like that is really a good color. So who here hates to paint gold on a model? Because it never looks right? It always comes off either just too palish or anything like that. So a tip I'm going to give you about gold. Paint either brown or tan before you paint the gold. So that brown or that tan will very much make that gold pop because you're giving it a good base layer for that to actually give a good color off of. A lot of people will do gold on top of black and it just doesn't look right because it's too dark. So if you're looking for like a shiny gold, do a thin layer of brown underneath. So, and guys, if you guys are enjoying the stream, make sure you hit that like button for me. Definitely let me know. Comments as well down and below are very helpful as well. So definitely kind of show the stream some love. I appreciate it. And Mike, I know you're new here. Hopefully you've subscribed. And if you're new and enjoying the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Because we stream every Tuesday and have kind of fun conversations like this. I'm hoping next week we'll have the Halo rings to play with. I think that super glue set fast enough that we're going to try to make the Enterprise B whole tonight. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have enough time tonight to get out the 3D printing pin. So I don't think I have any spare filament up here for the pin tonight. I did not plan ahead appropriately. Just like how I don't have any super glue accelerator up here. So a lot of times, oh dear, that's bad. Do not get super glue on me again. So the Aztec patterns, a lot of times I will, sometimes I will print out a paper template and use that. Sometimes for the model kits, okay, I'm going to have to hold this while I grab, I'm going to grab a model kit here real quick. Okay. So here's an Excelsior class. This is a 1/1000 Excelsior class model. This is a model kit. This is not 3D printed. I'm getting close, but I'm not quite there yet. This one is about I think 1/800 is what I'm at right now with this model. So I need to go bigger. But you know, we're growing the size. I'm trying to get there. And what I'll do a lot of times is, the cool thing about what Star Trek does is it follows. That's all right. It follows the ring patterns. Now, I wish I had the Enterprise C kit up here right now that I've got in work. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll tape, and then I will use that groove to take my hobby knife and cut the painter's tape. And I'll just drag the tip of in the groove. You got to be very careful. You don't want to hop out of the groove and create a scratch on the model. But it's one great way of creating that masking, and then just kind of trace your lines out, and you can kind of cut in your insignia. Another way too is vinyls. One of these days I hope to invest in a Cricut. That way I can make the vinyl overlays that I can just put them on here and paint them. And I think I broke this guy good. You're going to need a glue gun. Yep, you're going to need a glue gun. Disappointment. Yep, oh well. This is still very much a work in progress. But a very good looking work in progress. This one's going actually quite well. And then a lot of times decals I'll buy, like this kit, it had a lot of the decals, the Aztecing. I'll very slowly Aztec the model, but unfortunately I snapped it in half. I almost completely forgot about this one. So we'll set you aside and let the Enterprise be here dry as we pop out the parts for this one. I'm hoping they'll pop off relatively easy. It looks like it's gonna come apart fairly smooth, which is always a good thing. You want your supports to come off easily. You don't want to have to struggle with supports. No one wants to ever struggle with supports. But sometimes we make boo-boos. And you guys have seen me do it. So let's get these supports off here. This is another one that needs to start getting glued together and stop being a pile of model on my table. That's the bad one. So I had to print this twice because I actually made an error with it. Well, I definitely shook it apart today. I definitely shook it apart there. Probably wind up with a Starfleet court-martial for that one. But unfortunately, well done. That was the Excelsior. Crap. Oh well. So who can guess what I'm building right now? A 1/200 scale model warship. 1/200 is really big. Were you meaning 1/2000? Because, I mean, even a 1/350 Constitution refit of this is almost 4 foot long. Well, it's right about 3 foot long. So 1/200, depending on what you're wanting to make, Mike, is a big ship. So at that level, you're going to want FDM. You're going to want like a CR10 Max or a CR10 V2 to be printing your parts for that. Because you're going big scale there. I'm really hoping you're going for 1/2000, which then that's debatable of what scale you would actually want to go, depending on the model. You'll get Janewayed. Oh dear. I fear we're straying into bad territory with that comment. Oh. And actually, that's why I'm printing a new Voyager, is I am actually looking at the warship Voyager. So, kind of the goal is actually to print it, arm the tar out of it, and I'm looking for some Terran Empire emblems. I've got an Enterprise kit here that I think I'm going to steal a lot of the emblemage off of and make the Terran Empire version of Voyager. I think I'm moving a little too fast with this. But you guys were heard last week when we were talking about Space Above and Beyond. If you haven't guessed, this is actually the Saratoga, is what I'm trying to assemble here. And I'm just waiting for the glue to dry. I'm really hating that I did not get more super glue accelerator, because super glue accelerator, you put a drop of that on there and put a drop of super glue, that thing is stuck. But I'm having to kind of play the weight game a little bit as I go through here. So while that hand is busy, I'm going to try to get the bridge off here. Ugh. Come on. Oh, you know you want to. I am really worried you are not going to harden up. None that I have seen, but I bet there is a model out there with its armor. That was a great episode. Let's just ignore all temporal mechanics in Star Trek and just take Voyager home. I mean, what can go wrong with that, right? Yeah, the show got canceled way too soon for its time. I totally agree with you on that one, Mike. I'm getting antsy here, so I'm trying not to mess this up. And I feel like I'm going to. So out comes the clamp game. And I'm just going to give up there for a second, because I can see this sliding over, and that's not a good thing. Because if I had super glue accelerator, this thing would have been just stuck. It would have not been the fight that you guys are seeing me do here. All right. Are you gonna push it? Nope. Haha. Victory! Oh, when he went out and destroyed Chiggy von Richthofen? That was a good episode. All right. Now it's just precariously let that sit there and let that go. Mike Gross, where did you find that at? I'm actually curious about that. Matter of fact, if you don't mind, let's do this. I need to go over here because the chat doesn't let you put in emails. Make sure that typed up right. Mike at his3dprinting.com. If you don't mind, shoot that to me in an email. Mike, have a good night. Thanks for joining. Hopefully we'll see you next week when we do this one. I appreciate you guys joining because we are coming up on that time. This is the 5-minute notification before the stream ends. So I had hoped to actually get a little further. I'm going to run the risk here. Move that back, and yes, I moved it. I know I moved it. I'm getting too impatient. Hopefully that will harden up. Whoops, don't want to lose that bottom refractor piece. Sometimes they get stuck on the plate really well. I just don't want to bust it. Ah, that one's going to come off nice and smooth. Come on. Woohoo! Now looking at this, some of the guns didn't come out all that great, so I'm actually probably going to be looking at printing the guns with resin. I appreciate that, Mike. That would be actually probably a pretty fun print actually to have on here is and make sure because the bridge is a beautiful. All honesty, almost every bridge was pretty. Last 5 minutes. What was your favorite Star Trek bridge? I'm noticing that did not turn out well at all, actually. Nor did that one. They printed out horribly. That one's the better of the two, though. Nothing filler can't solve, though. Anybody got an answer for it? What was your favorite Star Trek bridge? I thought there were a lot of good designs. I'll tell you my least favorite is Discovery's bridge. We're going back to the time of Star Trek TOS, and we've got a bridge that's bigger than the Enterprise D's bridge. So it's kind of one of those things. That one was kind of I think a poor choice on scaling, in my opinion. Now, I will say the Enterprise bridge in Discovery of the Enterprise Season 2 was beautiful. It was a fantastic update. But in my opinion, nothing really beats the D. The Defiant came so close, but the D is just, she's my ship, man. I love the D. And, you know, the original series bridge from the refit version and stuff like that, you see it so much through Star Trek with the you see it through Mike Gross, have a good night. So machines that I use, like for example the Zheng He here, this was printed with a CR10 V2. I also use the V3 and the CR10 V1. They give fantastic details. The Odin F5 is a great machine for filament printing. The Ender 3s are really good. For a beginner, I recommend the Odin 5. You're going to spend more money, but you get a lot with it. When it comes to resin printing, my first printer was the LRD002, or the LD002R from Creality. But I've since gone up to the Proxima. I have a Creality Halo 1, which works really well. The Photo Mono X, take your time in learning that one. That's one more, I would say, is for an advanced printer, but you get the larger scale because you get to come up to like this. And then I just added the Saturn, Illigu Saturn S, which I am enjoying. So, the Highlander, hey, how's it going? Oh, hey, Joe. Hey, thanks for hopping in here, man. I appreciate it. We got all kinds of stuff on the table, been all kinds of conversations as we're getting ready to wrap up for the night. Been kind of a lot. We did a lot tonight. We did a bunch of assemblies and got new prints going. Got this beauty kind of started put together. A lot of ships kind of starting to come together, which means next week's probably going to be a whole bunch of painting. But I've got to definitely put in some more work on the Zheng He here. And I don't know where the models are going to land. Those may land on a new channel. I haven't decided that one yet. So we may open up a second channel that's just all model kits. So, But I do thank everybody for joining. If you haven't, hit that like button if you enjoyed the stream. It does help us out and help get everything. YouTube likes the interaction, so definitely. And again, let's leave that comment of... I guess I asked you guys to do a comment on something later tomorrow, but we'll find out what that is if you guys remember what I asked you to do, because I forgot. All in all, we got a lot going on. Hopefully next week we'll have a big chunk of the halo to be able to put together, and I will try to get some blue LEDs on hand, and we'll start, as we assemble, we'll make sure we're getting that in there so we can light up the backside. And as we put it together, the terrain inside, I'll actually demonstrate doing a lot of the terrain using the 3D printing pen and get that kind of going so we can get that terrain laid down in there and make it easier to paint and get that kind of built up. So definitely a lot going on. We talked a ton about resin printing tonight, which was great. And also, if you guys want to, I do have a Patreon. Links are out there on the channel. If you go on and become a supporter of the channel, I really appreciate it. Oh yeah, if you guys want me to do Stargate, that's what it was. Thanks, 2-a-days. If you guys want me to actually print a Stargate. So we'll leave that out there. Now I'm leaving the option. I can print a Stargate, or we can look at like the Prometheus, or I think it was the 303 was their big battle cruiser. So there's all kinds of stuff that we can print over in Stargate. I haven't done much with it. I have printed a Stargate before, but it wasn't moving. They have a ton of stuff out there, and I actually think I have an Arduino downstairs that we probably could use to program it. So if you guys are curious on my rebuild of Octoprint, definitely let me know if you want to see a new updated video of Octoprint. Let me know down in the comments down below. And if you guys are curious about these designs for, like I said, for like these paint handles, because this is the Citadel one that will cost you about $18 versus $1 to print. So, and different spray handles and different things like that. So definitely let me know if you guys are interested in getting the links to those models for that stuff is all out on Thingiverse, and I'll also put the pay for models out there if you just want to buy the pay for model and be done with it. So again, guys, I appreciate everybody showing up. Thank you for your guys' patronage and sticking with the channel, and we will see you guys on the next stream next week.